which said freedom is not free.
Okay, let's unpack that.
So they thought, let us prepare ourselves before elections, so that if the elections comes, we know if we win, we're in a coalition. That's all it says. You are not voting for coalition, you vote for those individual parties.
Hello, Dumelang, Absheni, Sanbonani, Goeiedag, Molweni, Lotjani. Welcome to the One Mark podcast, where we delve into real conversations about human rights and civil rights education. I am one of your hosts, Innocent Mohamme, Mositsana, Kharebe ya Motswana, Mo Afrika Borwa. I am thrilled to have you join us as we embark on this beautiful educational journey. As usual, I am not alone. I am with my co-host.
Hello, everyone, and welcome. Senamugela to the One Mark podcast. Igama lami nguMbali wakamotha lamvulani Ndlebe Nkomo, all the way from Mpumalanga. Thank you for joining us in today's episode. We want this podcast to be a safe space for everyone to engage openly about civic education and service delivery issues. We want to collaborate with people from different backgrounds. We hope to start conversations in your homes, in your cars, or wherever you are.
So, Mbals, in our previous episode, we spoke about democracy. And one of the things that kept on being highlighted was the right to vote.
Yeah.
And we thought, you know what, actually, let's continue this discussion, especially now that we have the 2024 elections coming up. So we want to talk about the process of voting. And I think we have a special guest in Bali.
We are thrilled to have Mtate Moses Pisto from the Electoral Commission of South Africa, better known as the IEC, to shed the light on the highly anticipated national elections. Before we dive into today's conversation, Tate Moses, can you kindly introduce yourself to our viewers in home and briefly tell us what is it that you do at the IEC?
Okay, no, thanks for inviting me. My name is Moses Pisto. I'm the head of outreach and communication in the IEC in Gauteng.
Thank you so much for joining us in the Moses. Moses, in one of our previous episodes, we were unpacking democracy, what democracy is, how we participate in it, and how we protect it. And one of the things that kept on coming up was the 2024 elections and the right to vote. So before we get into it, I wanted you to take us through. There's a lot of discussions around the democratic process. What exactly is the role of the Electoral Commission of South Africa and the responsibility of ensuring that there is fair electoral process?
No, thank you. Once again, thank you for inviting me. The IEC is established in terms of Chapter 9 of our Constitution.
Okay.
And its main responsibility, like all other Chapter 9 institutions, is to entrench democracy in the country. However, ours as the IEC is to entrench electoral democracy in the country, because if you read through the Constitution, you'll see in Section 1 of the Constitution, one of those rights, or those rights that are enshrined in the Constitution, it's a multi-party system of democracy, but an adult suffrage, which essentially means the right for every adult in South Africa to vote, and a common voter's role. Now, in terms of South African electoral edifice, you have got to be registered first to be a voter.
Yes.
But it's a right given only to South Africans. Remember, all rights enshrined in the constitutions, in our constitution, are rights accessible to every human being. Section 9 of the Constitution says everyone has got the right to be treated with dignity, and the right to life in Section 10. Now, all those rights are given to anybody who is in South Africa, except the right to vote. You only have to be, for you to vote in this country, you must be a South African. So as the IEC, we facilitate that process.
You facilitate the process. And I wanted to know, why is it important? I mean, South Africa has a very troubled history. And the right to vote was not afforded to everyone before. Why is it important to vote?
Well, one of the, it's a cliche. People will say, but I was listening earlier on to an old song, which said, freedom is not free.
Okay.
Okay, let's unpack that.
Please.
Yeah, for you.
We
for,
didn't even sit for us.
yeah.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah. As you are saying that South African, historically, certain people had no right to vote.
Yeah.
And for us to have that right to vote, a lot of people died.
Yes.
So it would really be an insult on their graves that they died for us to have a vote. And now that we have a vote, we are not utilizing that right. So that
Yes.
because with a vote, you determine what your future looks like. That's the only way that in a democratic state, that as a voter you can chart the trajectory of your country. We don't use the gun in this country to determine how things should be. You use the vote. Now, if you don't participate, others will, and their aims and wishes will find expression in the laws of this country, because those that have campaigned for their votes, they would have agreed in their manifestos, if you vote for us, these are the things that you're going to do.
Yes.
And so once they get into power, they do those things. Because when you not had voted, your will, your wishes, your will, and what you wanted to see, unfolding in your life will not find expression in the laws that this country make. Then you'll be back to square one, and it would be just like those people that have died for you to die to get a vote. It was just a waste of time on their part.
Absolutely.
I understand that each and every country has a unique electoral system. Am I right?
Yes, you are.
Please just walk us through the electoral system of South Africa and how does it accommodate the unique voices, or rather adapt it over the years to accommodate everyone?
Well, ours as an electoral system is steeped in democracy.
Right.
Remember, democracy would have you'd have a direct democracy and you'd have indirect democracy. And in an indirect democracy, you vote for people to represent you. Remember, in a direct democracy, you vote for them. You do your things for yourself.
Yes.
But in an indirect democracy, you vote for people to represent you, but you also participate. So the South African democracy is a indirect democracy, which means it's participatory and also representative. During elections, you vote for public representatives that go into legislatures, into the municipalities as ward councillors, into the provincial legislatures as members as MECs, as members of the legislature, into the National Assembly as parliamentarians. However, when those people are there, when they've got to make laws, they come to you to say participate in this law-making process. Because if they don't, the courts will then strike down those laws to say, no, you have made a law, but people did not participate.
Absolutely. I love that you're talking about participation so much. I recently saw a study that was conducted by the Human Sciences Research Council.
Right.
And the study revealed that majority of South Africans are not happy about the prospects of the country as well as their democracy. In fact, I think they say something along the lines that there is a sense of hopelessness and despondency. What are your views on that study?
Well, I cannot speak on behalf of the Human Sciences Research Council, but they would have undertaken a study within an appropriate framework. So if that's what they say, it means that's the output, the outcome of their study. But remember, there would be a slight deviation from the norm.
Yes.
However, the reason that you assume that South Africans are despondent is that they are not participating in the democratic framework that we've put in place. However, they do participate in the democracy. Once you see strikes, service delivery protests,
Yes,
and
yes.
things like that, they are participating in their democracy. However, they're not using democratic means to express their frustrations with what is happening in the country. But one thing that can solve that is when they have people that they have voted to go into power and represents their interest. If you don't vote,
You don't
the
vote
people
again.
that go in there
Yeah.
are going to do their things for their people.
Exactly.
But Ndede Moses, you mentioned something I find interesting. You said democratic measures.
Yes.
Can you highlight one? Because all I know is that if I'm not happy,
Yeah.
I am going on the streets, I'm going to protest.
Yeah.
If I don't know any other means, and now as a young person in South Africa, when I look at the situation, I feel that young people are frustrated because I'm sure we don't know these processes that you mentioned. What other means, what other processes can we do other than what is the norm to us, which is protesting?
Yes.
And also, before you can just answer our question, just to add on your question,
Yeah.
it's not that it's the only way that we know protesting, but it's the only way that we've recognized that if we protest, that's the only way
Yes.
they hear us.
That's
you
how
know?
we get louder.
No, look, maybe you misunderstood me when I said protesting it's a service delivery protests are undemocratic. No, in fact, they are democratic.
Yes.
Every a form of demonstration is democratic. In terms of our constitution, it should not be violent.
Yes, yes, yes.
Yes, you can demonstrate, you can march, you can have pickets and all, as long as it's not violent.
Yeah.
The nature of our demonstrations in this country tend to have a violent element,
Yeah,
which then
absolutely.
deviates from the reasons why people are protesting. And then the media then focuses on the violence and not on the grievance. So if our protests were not violent, we will not miss the message, and no one will miss the message. You can picket, stand with your placards, write the message, and do nothing.
Yeah.
People can read the message.
Peaceful march.
Yeah, it's a peaceful march. So that is what people talk about after the march, not the violence. So that is really our weaknesses with our service delivery protests. But other means, you can always engage with your public representatives. You have what is called constituency offices in provinces.
Yeah.
These are members of parliament that are representing that constituency. They are not representing a political party that has won that
Okay.
constituency. Anybody who becomes a public representative does not represent the interest of their party.
Right.
They represent the interest of the citizens in that constituency. If a ward has been won by an ANC or IFP or EFF, that ward is not an ANC or IFP or EFF. It's a ward for everybody who lives in that ward.
lives in it.
So the person who's a ward councillor in that ward must serve the interest of everybody in that ward. A member of parliament that has got the constituency office must serve the interest of everybody in that constituency. Country, South Africa, as a constituency, the president has won a constituency in South Africa. He must serve the interest of everybody in South Africa, not the interest of his party. Now, so these are the things that you can go to the constituency office and raise it. But one other things in the Municipal Structures Act allows you to engage in what you call meetings of the council, but also the constitution allows you to engage to participate in the meetings of the National Assembly and in the meetings of the provincial legislature. You can also submit your proposals to these legislatures of the things that you think should happen in your community, in your province, in your country. You can submit them. But also, you can also raise your issues at the Speaker's office. If you are not happy with your councillor, you can go and report your councillor to the Speaker's office to say this person is not doing their work, and they will do the investigation, and council will take a decision what should happen to the council.
Oh, okay. Yeah, because that was going to be my next question. So how do we hold them accountable if there's no action? I mean, if you go to your ward councillor and there's absolutely no action, how do we hold them accountable?
Yes.
And what is the next step?
Yes.
So, thank you so much. That's fantastic.
You're welcome.
Oh, you've touched quite a lot of things that I also
Yeah.
wanted to speak on. Firstly, I would like to pick your mind on participation. There has been a systematic decrease in youth participation when it comes to voting, and here is 2024 national elections. They're just around the corner. Why do you think there is such a lack in youth participation?
I think the challenge is the definition. You know,
Okay.
the definitions that we have in the country. What do you define as a youth? That's the challenge. Others would want to say it's from 16 to 19. Others would say from
16 to 35.
Isn't it 35?
No, I'm just saying.
It better be.
Yeah. You see, there's the challenge.
Yeah.
Now, in terms of our voters' role, the biggest component of our voters' role is the ages 21 to 39.
Oh.
Yeah. Now, if your argument is that the youth is not participating, that argument there will fall flat.
Okay.
You see,
Okay.
however, but if you are saying the youth is 18 to 21, then you would have an argument. Hence, as the IEC, we have programs that we go into schools
Okay.
to register children from the age of 16. but they can only vote when they're 19, they're 18. Because remember at the beginning I said universal adult suffrage is a right to vote for all adults. In South Africa, you are adult only when you are 18.
Yes.
But you get an ID at 16,
16.
because you need it for your exams, your matric exams and things like that. So at 16, we partner with schools and the Department of Education, not Department of Home Affairs, to go into schools, but also to go at the offices when the youngsters pick up their IDs, we register them, but then engage them about the importance of voting, but also participate in their elections with the RCLs. But yourselves from, I'm sure, I assume, I may be wrong, but you are from universities, and I'm sure you'd know that your participation in those elections, in SRC elections, are pathetic. So it cannot be that once you are adults, now you are in the national discourse, now you are telling us the youth are not you don't participate in your own areas. The voter turnout in universities, if they've worked hard, it's 20%. You see, so it's pathetic there. So which means that's where the challenge is. As the IEC, we then engage with the universities.
Okay.
We run SRC elections, but we help with the technical support for SRC elections, but also have programs of providing civic and voter education in universities to engage with the youth, to say these are the things that you should do, and then how you can do these things, because the future of this country is in your
It's in
hands.
our hands, they always say.
I'm glad that there's already, it looks like there's a plan in place already to encourage the youth to vote in the upcoming elections. Yeah, and that was actually my next question.
Dr. Moses
Yeah.
answers questions before
He
we
does,
ask the
he has
questions.
My next question will then, does the IEC work with other NGOs to make sure that they encourage young people to vote, and also to basically know their right to vote and why it's important for them to vote?
Yes, indeed. In fact, the law requires the IEC that it must work with everybody to realize its own objects.
Okay.
And our own object is electoral democracy. One of the programs that we run now is civic and voter education from the pulpit. We have partnered with the SAC. We're training all priests and training youth in the churches so that they provide voter education in their spaces. As the priest is preaching there on the pulpit, can provide voter education, encourage people why they should register and why they should vote, the things that we are discussing here.
Yeah.
But also the youth at Sunday schools to engage each other around the importance of participating in the democracy. So these are some of the things that we do as the IEC, but also participate in a number of fora that you'd find the IEC, whether it's over the weekends or during the week. We're everywhere with everybody. Will be for a number of programs in August and September. We are working with the Minister of Basic Education. We'll be going into different schools with her. But we've also worked with her in a number of programs previously. Went to churches like this church in Randburg there that we spent a week there. I don't know what they call it, Rima Church.
Oh, Rima.
We spent a week there with the Ministry of Education, but also departments in Gauteng and Joburg Metro. We work with Joburg Metro because our offices, remember the IEC has got an office in all municipalities. So our offices are in Joburg Metro. In all the regions, we work with the Office of the Speaker of Joburg Metro, but also work with the Office of the Speaker in the legislature, the Gauteng provincial government. We work with it on all of their programs. We do the same thing with COCTA. Collaborate with COCTA. In September, I will be training 920 COCTA youth ambassadors for them who are being deployed now to provide civic and voter education in the province. The IEC will be training those so that when they go out there, they speak about our content, and then they don't speak about politics and political parties, but they engage with communities about our content.
Okay. You just mentioned political parties. I have a question around that.
Yeah.
There has been concerns over political parties' cohesion of voters. Are there concerns from the IEC that there might be voter intimidation for the upcoming elections? And do you address it as an organization?
Yes, as the law stands in the Electoral Act, there's prohibited conduct. every political party, before they get registered with the IEC, they sign a code of conduct that some of the things that you're talking about, they don't indulge in those things.
Okay.
But nature being nature, we have, as the IEC, we've got to put systems in place. Hence, we have this prohibited conduct, which is one of the things that as we send people to go out, they must engage communities around what is prohibited conduct, what are the things they should not be doing, and what are the penalties for doing the things that are outside of the framework of elections. Once the elections, the date has been declared, the Electoral Act comes into effect, and those things that are deemed as prohibited, if you do those things, you'll be committing a crime, and you'll be arrested. So as the IEC, that's what we do in communities.
Okay.
We train communities about prohibited conduct, but also train party agents so that they too must understand what is their role in the electoral process, so that all of us have the same understanding of what is it that everybody has got to be doing in elections. But yes, indeed, the IEC has got systems in place to ensure that all parties, fall in line, and all of us we participate in the way that we should.
Okay. Dr. Pisto, I know this is just 1 year before the national elections, which are next year, but all around, everyone is talking about these elections. They are highly anticipated by a lot of people. In your own opinion, how do you think they will impact the level of democracy in South Africa?
Well, the value of democracy diminishes with the drop in participation. So it's a good thing for all of us if now everybody's talking about elections next year. So it means our democracy, stands a chance to survive.
Okay.
Yeah, so because now people will be participating, but the elections is only one area. After elections, they must hold those that they have voted for accountable.
Accountable.
You see, so they
Absolutely.
must make sure that they do the things that they promised to do. But yeah, for us, really, it's a good thing that at least there's now a new vigor for people to participate in elections.
Yeah.
It means people have realized that there are solutions in elections, because people will say, "Nah, I'll spoil my vote." When we count,
I've heard that.
when we count as the IEC, we don't count spoiled votes.
Okay.
It means you have not voted.
Oh, yes, nah.
Yeah, so a person says, "I want to vote." Now, if you don't vote, it means your interests are not represented.
Yeah.
You see, so there's no, you are saying you don't want this person, and I want to vote because I don't want this person. You're actually saying, "I want this
I
person."
want this person.
Because those people that want this person
Yeah.
are going to vote for this person.
Yeah.
Well, now you won't vote for an alternative. So it's like it's a self-defeating, position or posture that people would have, that I spoil my vote or I won't vote, and then expect a different outcome.
Yeah.
Yeah, so actually in not voting, you're giving other people power
Yes.
to actually elect whoever they want.
Yeah, and it could be the person that you don't want.
Exactly.
So you actually, by not voting, you're saying, "Okay, vote for that person that I don't want."
Exactly.
And then all I'll do is complain.
Is
But I
complain.
know my complaints are going nowhere.
Yeah.
I just complain for 5 years, and then
Yeah.
Dr. Moses, when we talk about participation, 2021 local government elections, there are technical glitches go
Yes.
IEC. I get it. Some people had, correct me if I'm not mistaken, some people registered, but then when they got there, their names were not on the register list. Now, the next coming elections, what measures have been taken for the same thing is going to happen?
No, I think what had happened then, remember we introduced self-registration, online registration.
Yes, yes.
Now, the problem with online registration, if you put number 24 Craddock Street,
Okay.
it will show all Craddock Streets all over the country.
Okay.
And when you will click Craddock Street in Eastern Cape, your registration details will put you in the Eastern Cape. When you get to the voting station, you say, "But I registered," but you are not here.
Yeah.
You are in the Eastern Cape.
Okay.
So it's important when people do self-registration
Okay.
online, they must check if they say Craddock Street, is the Craddock Street in Rosebank?
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because if you click any other Craddock Street, the registration system will put you there, and you won't be in this section as a segment of the voters' roll of Rosebank. You will be out there. That's why a lot of people, when they went to voting stations, they were frustrated. You say, "But I did register." but my name is not there. Now, we have now addressed that problem. We have a VMD now, but no, over and above this voter management system, we also open our voting stations. I'm sure you are aware that in 18, 19 September, we're opening our voting stations
Yes.
for people to go there and check if their registration details are correct. However, you can also check your voting registration details on SMS.
Yeah.
If you send your ID number to 32810. 32810. You send your ID number there, it will tell you where you are registered. And then if it shows that you are registered in a wrong place, then you can go online, update your registration details, and put yourself in the appropriate voting district or voting station where you live.
Mara, but if now I happen to find myself in Cape Town, it's the voting day. Because I'm registered to go northwest somewhere, and now I find myself in Cape Town. Can't I vote there?
No, hence you are saying now, update your details.
How will I know I'll be in Cape Town?
Send your ID number to 32810. It will tell you where you are.
And
You
I
can
can't-
do it now as you are sitting here. Send your ID number now to 32810 and now. Before we finish, you will have an answer where you are registered.
No, we'll
Okay, I'm gonna do
definitely
it
Yes.
before.
Yes.
Bows, we're doing it.
Those guys, they can do it. They've got it at home.
Guys,
Yeah, they can do it.
here's a call.
Yeah.
But in that, if I happen to wake up again, now I'm not in Cape Town.
Yes.
I'm in my district.
Yes.
I'm where I reside.
Yes.
I happen to wake up, I didn't register. I can't go on the day.
Yeah, that's why I told you that the requirement in this country, you must be registered as a voter and you must be South African.
You must be South
If you are not registered as a voter, you will not vote.
It's too late.
Yeah, you must register now. Right now, guys, use the internet.
We will do
You're
it.
on the phone.
We will do it.
Use
We
your
will-
phones
we will
down,
check.
register.
We will
Doesn't take
definitely
much. So at least if right now you are not sure if you want to vote, which is bad, but on that day, if you decide I want to vote now, you will be on the voters' roll. Because remember, there's what is called proclamation. When the president announced the date of elections,
Yes.
he will also announce the date of proclamation.
Okay.
On the date of proclamation, the voters' roll closes. So if you register after that vote, after that date, you will not be able to vote for these elections. You will have voted in time for the next elections, but these elections you will not be able to vote.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much, Ntate. This was so insightful. I don't think we've ever actually laughed this much when shooting this podcast. We've laughed a lot. We've had enough information. And again, go and register. Check. It's
32810.
32810. Go check if you're registered and be within your district so that you can vote. Ntate Moses, before we let you go, we
Yeah.
are shooting this on Women's Month.
Yes.
Okay. And
Yes.
you are sitting here with two Mbogodos of South Africa.
Yes.
So we wanted you to say something about a message to women in South Africa, because this is a month where we acknowledge the inequalities, gender-based violence, and all those challenges that women in South Africa are facing. Do you have any message for women?
No, in fact, I would have a message, but I would have a message not only for women, but
Okay.
for women and men. You know, as I indicated earlier on, that we have our constitution in section 9, in section 10, respects the right of everyone. Everybody has
Yes.
got inherent dignity.
Yes.
Yeah, everybody has got, and that dignity has got to be respected. Whether you are a woman or a man, a foreigner, the issue of homophobia,
Yeah.
gender-based violence, all of those things, racism. In this country, in our constitution, we respect the right of everybody's dignity, because nobody is given that dignity. You are born with the dignity. Now, the first step that you do towards dehumanizing a human being or another person is giving them a name. Now, our young boys there and our men out there, for them to stop abusing our women, they must stop giving them a name.
Okay.
Because if you give a person a name, you are not abusing that person, you are abusing that name. If you are killing a foreigner, you are not killing a foreigner, you are killing a kwere.
Yeah.
If you are killing a black person, you're not killing a black person, you're killing Ekafur. It's the same with gender-based violence. When you abuse a woman, you're not abusing a woman, you're abusing a bitch. Stop giving our men names, because once you do that, it will stop every other thing, because the first step towards abusing another person is giving that person a name and dehumanize them.
Oh, that's very powerful, really. Mbali, do you have anything to add as we are closing the show?
Yes, actually, Mr. Moses, we woke up in South Africa on Thursday, and there were 7 parties
Oh, yes,
that
yes.
decided to come together and form a coalition. So, for interest's sake, I just want to know, how does that, if it does, impact, or will it anyway change how our ballot paper would look like, or the legislation?
No, it's nothing. These parties have just agreed to do what they always agree to do after elections.
Okay.
They just agreed to do it before elections.
Okay.
That's all. Remember, we always have coalitions
Okay.
in government, but these coalitions normally they happen after elections.
Yeah.
Their argument is that because the law requires that you must, if you were going to a coalition, you must do it within 14 days.
Yeah.
They may not have time if they win within that 14 days to have a coalition. So they thought, let us prepare ourselves before elections, so that if the elections comes, we know if we win, we're in a coalition.
So
That's
it
all it
doesn't
says.
affect
Yeah, no,
the
you are not voting for coalition. If you vote, you vote for those individual parties.
Individual parties.
Yes.
All right. With that said, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us today in yet another episode. Please make sure that you subscribe to those channels so that you do not miss another episode. Remember, the big message today is register to vote. Register to vote.
Yes. And lastly, Dada Moses, before we let you go, a message to all citizens
Yes.
before the 2024 elections next year.
As this has been the thread throughout this discussion,
Yes.
people must register to vote,
Yes.
if anything, to respect the lives that have been lost for them to get this vote. But they register to vote and vote to determine the trajectory of this country, because it is only through your vote that our democracy will be entrenched as it should be. The foundations that we have laid now will, if they are not strong enough, whatever beautiful country we build, it will crumble later on if we don't entrench our democratic principles. So register to vote, and next year when elections are called, please go to the voting stations and vote.
Dada Moses, we saw recently also a conversation around political party funding. Please walk us through what exactly is happening there, because I think they wanted to increase the funding. Is there a way to ensure transparency and accountability?
Yes, indeed. Remember, once people win seats in parliament, depending on the number of seats that they have won in parliament, they get funding from you as taxpayers.
Yes.
Now there is political represented political party funding. So all the political parties that are represented in the legislatures gets funding from a fund that the IEC is given by government. So that's the fund that they were raising to say we're going to increase the quota of the fund for political parties as they prepare for elections next year. But it's different from the Political Party Funding Act. That is where people can donate to political parties. Nothing has changed there. The threshold is still the same, and then the criteria is still the same. Certain donations, like from countries, from other governments, are not allowed. From agencies from other governments, like the CIA, FBI, are not allowed to fund political parties. So those are the two funds.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Hey everyone, Ramu from One Mark Podcast. We're out here in Joburg doing street interviews on democracy. We just want to know what people know about democracy and then if they're going to vote for the next year's election. So we are here with Percy. Percy, can you please tell us if, like, your understanding on democracy?
Democracy for me, I mean, it's democracy. Firstly, demo. I mean, it's fake. It's fake. It's just an analogy for you just to, you know, feel like you're free, but it's not really freedom. And yeah, for me, it's not really freedom. It's just a word just put in practice. Yeah.
So are you going to vote next year?
No. Honestly, there's nobody to vote for. Besides voting, I mean, it's already leaked. It's okay. My question for you, basically, you're asking me questions. I know that, but my question for you would be, if you were to vote, right, in the understanding of there's change, who would you vote for? Like, amongst all these political parties. For starters, there's the MP, what nonsense. Hey, yeah, the moon. But again, Moonpeg, yes, Moonpeg. Multi-party charter, yes. They have no. What is the word?
Policies.
It's not policy. It's like, yeah, that word for the parties and stuff. But one, you need to understand what they're actually willing to give on the table, and then you can actually vote for them. There's nothing that's opposing the ANC, and the ANC has nothing to give to the people. So you can't say there's anybody who's there for the people. So you can't vote. My honest opinion, don't vote. But that's just me.
Ethan, what do you know about democracy?
I don't know much. I haven't voted before. Yeah.
So are you going to vote next year?
Yeah, I think I will. I'm not sure for who yet.
Is this going to be your first time voting?
Yeah, it is.
Are you excited?
Yeah, I could say I'm excited.
Do you see there will be any change if you vote?
I mean, I don't know about much change because there's a lot of people, but yeah, I think I can change if one vote will change a lot.
So, dude, what is your understanding with democracy?
Freedom to choice, to do I don't know, like I don't know, you guys, this is a lot. Freedom of choice, freedom of speech, to practice my rights, freedom of expression. Yeah.
So are you going to vote next year?
I always vote.
Ramu, what do you know about democracy?
What do I know about democracy? I don't know. I'm just having a mind block when you're saying that. But I think democracy is basically just a sense of freedom in a way. But I don't think in South Africa there's actually democracy like that. But
So next year are you going to vote?
I was actually thinking of voting, but I don't know like what to vote for. Yeah, I'm just like having a conflict in my head for if I vote for this, like I don't know what to vote for. So maybe I'm not going to vote because I don't know what to vote for.
So now, what is your understanding with democracy?
Democracy, I think it's the system of government and all that.
So are you going to vote next year?
I don't know. Like I don't know. I'm not a fan of politics and everything, so I don't know.
So, but this is what do you know about? What is your understanding about democracy?
Democracy is a freedom for all. Democracy is where everybody got the right to do and to practice what they believe in, and then to do what they want to do, when and how.
So are you going to vote next year?
The voting is a private and confidential.
But are you going to vote?
Still, it's a voting. Because the next question will be, who am I going to vote for?
So let's you what is your understanding with democracy?
Freedom. To sum it up, I'd say freedom.
So are you going to vote next year?
No, probably not.
Lillian and Sarah, what is your understanding about democracy?
Well, it's about bringing fairness to every country, right? I think democracy is about everyone having their own opinion.
So are you guys going to vote next year?
Definitely. I vote every year.
Yes. And that's it, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for joining us today. If you have not checked out our previous episodes, please do so, and then come back again, and then come back again and again and again, because we have more. Until then, stay engaged, stay curious, as we together unlock the power of knowing our rights. Goodbye.